From high hopes to heavy criticism, Prime Minister Modi's much anticipated US trip promised transformative deals for India. But what did it really deliver? A lopsided trade agreement, costly imports, and a growing dependency on American technology. Critics argue that Modi returned with empty promises, conceding more than he gained, a trip meant to strengthen India's position on the world stage may have left it more vulnerable to US dominance. Semiconductors were touted as the crown jewel of this visit. The US pledged to help India build its semiconductor manufacturing industry, but the fine print tells a different story. India agreed to purchase billions in American equipment for semiconductor production, yet there's limited assurance of the technology transfer required to build a truly independent industry. Instead of empowering India, this agreement ties it closer to American suppliers, making India a consumer in a US led supply chain. Geopolitics aside, is this really a win for self reliance? The electronics and computing sector also took center stage. While American tech giants are eager to flood Indian markets with their products, the story of Indian exports tells a different tale. In 2024, India imported $25 billion worth of electronics and computing devices from the US. Meanwhile, Indian exports in this sector remain negligible, focused primarily on software services. With deals focused on buying high-end US products like advanced computers and AI tools, the trip secured India's position as one of America's largest markets. But for Indian manufacturers, it offered little in terms of growth or opportunities. The trip also brought an energy deal, one that raised eyebrows. India agreed to import oil and gas from the US at costs significantly higher than OPEC rates. While the government framed this as diversifying energy sources, the numbers paint a different picture. India will pay nearly 20% more for US LNG imports than it does for supplies from the Middle East. Critics argue that these deals were designed to boost American profits, not meet India's energy needs efficiently. Apparently, India is now helping the US counter OPEC at its own expense. One of the most controversial aspects of the visit was the push to sell India F-35 fighter jets. The US emphasized the deal as critical for countering China, but the jets' reliability and cost have been hotly debated. India agreed to consider purchasing the F-35s despite their high maintenance cost and questionable performance in recent deployments. Meanwhile, there was no concrete assurance of US support in countering Chinese aggression. In reality, the F-35 deal is less about India's defense and more about America's sales target. Once again, India pays the price while the US cashes the check. Modi's visit was not just about trade, it was also an opportunity to address sensitive issues like the deportation of Indian workers, handcuffed and humiliated, and concerns about corporate favoritism. But on both counts, the trip fell short. Trump offered no assurance about the fair treatment of Indian deportees, leaving thousands in limbo. Meanwhile, Modi faced tough questions about the Adani Group, questions that highlighted crony capitalism rather than India's global aspirations. Perhaps the most significant takeaway from this visit is the shift in India's global alignment. As BRICS falters and the US strengthens its grip, India appears to be moving further away from its vision of a multipolar world. India's trade deficit to the US stands at $40 billion, with imports dominating the relationship. Agreements from this trip are set to widen the gap even further. In essence, Modi's US visit reinforces the perception that India is not a partner in this relationship, it's a market. In the end, Modi's US trip leaves more questions than answers. From expensive energy deals to one-sided tech agreements, it raises serious concerns about India's growing dependence on America's interest. Will this partnership lead to progress or simply deepen the imbalance?